Hey everyone, what's up? What's going on? My name's Joe, and this right here is just a pre-roll to our podcast. I'm here very briefly just to tell you about our Facebook group. How many fingers am I holding up? The Facebook group. It really has less to do with our podcast and more to do with the fans of our podcast, or just, fans of movies in general, all having, an open discussion about movie news, movie trailers, and of course, movie memes. Of course, you can also follow our official Facebook page or any of our social media pages via the links on our website, howmanyfingerspodcast.com. And before I get into the episode this week, I just want to plug our web store, which you can also find on our website. And also, shout out to Giesk. She's a German listener who reached out to us about paying for international shipping, which, by the way, is not cheap, which is why we usually only ship to the US. But she just wanted to buy some merch and rep the podcast. So it all ended up working out. And thank you, Giesk. God, I hope I'm saying that right. She bought the package deal, which includes a t-shirt, a koozie, and stickers, all for $11.99, which is cheap, unlike international shipping. So be like Giesk and get yours today. Anyway, let's get into it. We're reviewing A Simple Favor this week. Enjoy. Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing A Simple Favor.
Oh, speaking of, can you just watch my stuff for a second?
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Sure. He's not coming back, is he? Hey everyone, and welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting green eggs and slammed and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
Thank you to Andy Chisonis on Facebook for that awesome synonym suggestion.
That's a good one.
Green eggs and slammed. Oh boy. I'm trying to think of a Dr. Seuss reference. I'm coming up short right now.
It's been a long night, and this is our third episode.
Third episode. And we're going to make it even more third episode tonight by trying to finish these 6 beers in this episode.
Let's go, baby. We're going to do... Let me introduce what we've got going on here. So we have Labatt Blue. It's gonna be a good episode, baby. We have Labatt Blues, Labatt Blue Light, Labatt Blue Lights. But it's not your typical Labatt Blue Light. We've got tangerine flavored, we've got grapefruit flavored, and we've got lime flavored. And we're gonna try to each do one of each.
So is this like? At first glance, because it's so light, I thought this was going to be like a Smirnoff type thing, but this is just like Bud Light with lime, but with all these different flavors, really.
I want you to try it and tell me like the lack of flavor that you taste. It's let me just.
Oh, that's water.
Almost nothing.
Wow.
Tastes like seltzer. Next to nothing.
Yeah. All right, so we've got about 20 minutes to finish each of these. We want to get them all done in the episode.
And no, yeah, I was telling Mike, I was like, I had like 6 of these last night, and I never felt anything. So we should be able to fly through these. Tangerine, it's generous that they would call this tangerine.
Is there
it's like a slight citrus flavor.
Is there a Labatt Blue, and then this is Labatt Blue, light? Or is this Labatt, comma, blue light?
Oh no, there's Labatt.
Roxanne, you don't have to turn on the blue light.
There's Labatt Blue is a Canadian beer. It's kind of like their Coors Light. And yeah, I guess they're just trying to get in on that Bud Light Lime game.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, why stop at lime? Let's do grapefruit and tangerine.
This barely has the beer flavor, much less the tangerine flavor.
I don't actually know what Labatt Blue Light tastes like.
Labatt. We're gonna say that all episode.
Labatt.
It's the sound you make when you puke up. Labatt. Labatt.
I love how like a simple favor is like a very kind of like, ooh, like only the finest fucking frozen martini with a
we're stupid. We should have done martinis.
Yeah.
Instead, we're drinking Labatt. Labatt.
Now I'm gonna turn on the NHL game. Give me a Labatt Blue.
Fight, 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 fight.
It's like Canada rednecks.
Or what's that show that's on right now? That is Canada Rednecks.
Trailer Park.
No, there's like a new one that's on.
Oh, right.
Someone's gonna correct me in the comments. It's very popular right now. It's like a nonsense word. You'll recognize it if
Somebody put in the comments below.
Oh boy. All right. Anyway, that was our beer introduction, our movie
Yeah.
introduction. We're going to review A Simple Favor. And we have a simple favor of you to ask. Just listen to this episode.
Let me go ahead and hit you all up with that IMDb description. A woman seeks to uncover the truth behind the disappearances of her best friend. They really fucking harp on that best friend title a lot in this movie. It's like, I don't like that. It's she was my best friend. That's my best
You
friend.
hung
That's
out with her
missing.
2 times.
Yeah,
You need to chill out.
Like I almost kind of thought it was going to be some sort of joke or like part of like some sort of inside thing, but I don't really get that part of it. I don't know.
So some background on A Simple Favor. It was based on the 2017 novel of the same name by Darcy Bell, and it was her debut novel. Was directed by Paul Feig. I have a line on the pronunciation now. I looked it up, and he responded to someone on Twitter who said that it's Feig, not Feig, as I was
Okay.
saying in the last episode. He's a writer, director, actor, and producer. He's worked on I Am David, Unaccompanied Minors, Bridesmaids, The Heat, and Ghostbusters. So basically a lot of Melissa McCarthy movies. He was also the creator of Freaks and Geeks, as well as Other Space, and the executive producer of The Joel McHale Show with Joe McHale. He's wrote and directed many, many TV episodes from The Office, Arrested Development. He even directed a Mad Men episode at one point. So he's been around, very well traveled and versed. The screenplay for A Simple Favor was by Jessica Sharzer, who has done a lot of shorts and indies early in her career, and then later on episodes of American Horror Story and the TV show Star, as well as Nerve and the Dirty Dancing TV movie. That was last year, I think. And then we've got a cast of Anna Kendrick, Blake Lively, Henry Golding, Andrew Rannells, Linda Cardellini, Rupert Friend, Bashir Salahuddin, Kelly McCormick, and Aparna Nancherla. And with that, let's enter the realm of Paul Feig's A Simple Favor.
I didn't realize he was the creator of Freaks and Geeks.
I didn't as well
What
until
did-
this.
What does fucking Judd Apatow even do?
He produces, man.
Dude, I can't tell you how much heat I've caught on this, like, because of this podcast. I think I went in on him on Sausage Fest where I was like, what does that fucking guy do besides, like, be a producer?
He's just a professional friend to a lot of comedians.
And again, like, nobody wants to be like, oh, man, Judd Apatow is talentless because he's like, Judd Apatow is like the guy who connects you with the person who pays you
and
fucking.
he's a tastemaker. And
Right.
He did also, I think he won an Emmy this year for the Richard Shanling documentary that he did for HBO.
Yeah.
So we can't say talentless.
No. But again, he's the guy that connects you with money, kind of. You know, like there's not a whole lot of like. It just annoys me when like Pete Holmes is like, yeah, I was having trouble writing something for the show, and then like he showed up, and I was kind of like, yeah. He doesn't seem like he does a lot of writing professionally. He doesn't seem like he does it. Oh man, he strikes me as the kind of guy that
for
directing, like
that worked really hard early in his career, found some success, and then has figured out that like producing is the sweet spot of like, I can be a family man, I can spend as much time as I want with my kids, and now I can literally produce my kids' movies that are like coming out and connect all of them in all the ways they want to be. I can find up and coming artists and comedians and, you know, make their dreams come true, all while not really like working that hard throughout the year. Like he's probably making a bunch of phone calls and just expelling his general knowledge about comedy and movies and writing.
But it's almost, I don't know, and that's fine. But it's almost like he doesn't have a vision, you know? Like it's kind of like he sees other, again, he's a tastemaker. He sees other people's visions, and he's like, yeah, that could probably be a TV show, or that could be a movie, you know?
And I don't want to knock it because he does a lot of it.
Oh no,
like
and he's
everywhere
doing
you
it
look,
right.
it's like produced by Judd Apatow and whatnot. And he does do something like I think he put out a stand-up special last year on his own, just him doing stand-up. So like he's clearly working a lot, but for the most part, he seems to have just found like producing like minimum effort, maximum reward.
Hey, I'm here though to be like, no, sorry, he actually didn't. I'm like gonna be that guy from now on to be like, oh, Judd Apatow, director of Talladega Nights, and I'm gonna be like, hey, let me stop you there. I don't even know if he was involved with that film, you know, like or like Superbad, like, oh, Judd Apatow's movie. No, sorry. Just gonna step in right here. You know, like it's just like I have to do that.
You stopped by set one.
Yeah, I had to do that all the time. Kind of. It was just, I don't know. Yeah, it's.
But yeah, anyway, he's got nothing to do with this movie.
Oh, A Simple Favor, Judd Apatow.
Produced by Judd Apatow. He found Paul Feig like 20 years ago. So might as well produced it. Yeah, but let's jump into this actual movie. Did you get in your theater like all the Lionsgate like promotions before the movie?
I don't know.
They're running some like, see all these 4 Lionsgate movies that are out now, and like if you see 1, you get a certain amount of points. If you see 2, you get this. And if you see all 4, you get all 4 digitally. And
I don't think so.
It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in a theater before.
Either that or this might have been one of those movies that I just purposely come into movies like 20 minutes late now. Just so I can sit down and then watch 5 or 10 minutes of trailers before the movie starts, you know?
I think I showed up late to this one, and I still ended up catching, like it was like the last of their promotions. But it was like, I got to see like all the Lionsgate trailers for movies they have out now. And then it was like, make sure you see those.
What movies were they doing?
I think Hellfest is a Lionsgate movie.
Okay.
And then, I'm blanking on it. The one that with the Spy Who Dumped Me.
Okay.
Is the other one. So like if you see that, this, Hellfest, and there's a 4th one that I'm also blanking on right now. But they're promoting them as like a package of like, if you see all 4, you get all 4 digitally. Like, because that's what people want right now, is to own movies digitally.
Yeah.
It was strange.
Weird.
I guess that's also not the actual movie A Simple Favor, as I said we were about to venture into.
Did you see it? What movie theater was it in?
The Cinemark that I usually go to. No, I lied. This was at Regal.
Oh.
I saw that. Yeah.
We were on like the fringe of talking about this in our other episode. But again, I feel like we should talk about this really quickly, just because we haven't had a live episode in a while. We haven't like updated in a while. We both left MoviePass in August, I think.
Yeah, I canceled in August, but my subscription went until like mid-September. So I technically had
Yeah.
it until mid-September, but couldn't see any movies.
Yeah,
with
no,
it.
mine-
And I tried because I was like, well, the month is already paid for, so let me try to use it even
Mhm.
after I've canceled. And no dice.
Yeah, mine went to like September 4th or something. But the same day that I canceled MoviePass, I signed up for AMC A-List.
Ooh.
And I think a Regal theater near me was bought by AMC. I have all Regal theaters, and one of those theaters was bought by AMC and turned into like a really nice AMC. And I'd never been there because I had no desire to go there really, because I liked my Regals kind of that I was using with MoviePass. But then I just never been to this theater, spur of the moment, canceled MoviePass and was like, fuck it, let's do AMC A-List. And I was just like, most of the movies that we're reviewing are going to be at this AMC theater. I might as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking $20 a month, but I see a whole lot more than, that or whatever. And it's been really nice. It's
Does that include AMC stubs?
yeah, AMC stubs.
So you're technically a premier member of
Yeah.
AMC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
However, I'll start with my only complaint is that like I've seen like 9 or 10 movies and I still haven't earned anything via rewards.
Well, I
'Cause-
guess the movies that you're getting for free, quote unquote, don't
Yes,
count towards it.
exactly. So like it's only like the $20 I pay a month are like going towards this thing, which I thought was kind of shitty, especially just because I came off of MoviePass and Regal was like, hey, if MoviePass is like paying for it, we're still gonna count that as a ticket.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like paying $10 and these other people are paying for all these movies and I'm getting free tickets every 3 movies.
I mean, that was even
It's
the
just
thing
kinda like-
early on with AMC,
Mhm.
like seeing AMC with MoviePass, but eventually AMC smartened up and was like,
Right.
yeah, you can use AMC, but you can't use it with your AMC
Right.
stubs account, so you can't get the. So it was really just concessions at that point.
Honestly, though, the minute Regal launches something, I'm going right to that.
Yeah. Do you like
Uh,
Regal, or is it just because it's closer?
See
The
that?
close Regal to me is so shitty.
Yeah, no. Well, that's the thing. I have 2 Regals near me, and one is shitty and is right down the road, and I never go to it. And then there's a nice Regal. Nothing is as nice as this AMC I'm going to. There's something so convenient about Regal, and I don't know how to put my finger on it. And I think it is that kind of like their kind of dumb business sense where it's kind of like, I know if I signed up for like A-List at Regal, they'd be
I
like,
remember going to see Force Awakens at Regal with you opening night. And you used your college ID for a discount.
yeah, they're just like, okay, like they'll just fucking, like, again, I think at some point I had a complaint one day about a Regal film, and I just like said that complaint out loud just randomly, and they're like, well, here's 2 free tickets, just like to whatever movie you want to see next. And I was like, oh, thank you, like, like it's just like, it's such like
Well, yeah, they're the underdog in terms of competing with AMC, because AMC is top dog as it comes to theater complexes.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. I don't even see them as competing. I just see them as these 2 different identities. I don't know. And
I think everybody's competing with AMC because they're taking over. They're like you said, they bought a Regal out to be like, no, this is an AMC now.
right. I still think there's a lot of Regals, and I think especially like when like my girlfriend's from Oklahoma, I'll visit like Oklahoma or something. It's like it's all Regals. Like it's like I think AMC and Regal are neck and neck.
I don't think it's as close as you're thinking.
Really?
Maybe in numbers,
Okay.
but I think in terms of profit,
Oh, okay.
AMC is
Right.
because AMC has all the dine-in ones. AMC's pushing all
True.
the innovation and
True.
stuff, and
And that's another thing I'll say is when I went to go see The Nun, I got a beer. Because I was like, I'm not up to see The Nun right now. I'm kind of in a bad mood. But I bought a beer and I was.
But if I have a
felt
beer in my
fine.
hand.
And also, yeah, me and Sabri went to go see Crazy Rich Asians, which I talked about during that episode. But Sabri, like, again, this is a brand new theater. It's all like the seats that recline almost all the way back, and there's these huge leather recliners, kind of. did I say receivers earlier? I don't know. Doesn't matter. We're gonna gloss over that. But anyway, Sabri was like, "Is it like?" Because I had seen a bunch of movies in this theater by this time, and Sabri was like, "Is it weird to you that it's just we're just laying down in the dark with a bunch of strangers?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of weird now that you say it, but like it's super comfortable and super."
I saw in like a Dolby theater, I saw Mission Impossible, and like everyone's like in their recliners, and then you see like one by one, everyone figures out like, oh, electronically I can
Yes,
plug it back.
yeah.
And then everyone's just like, oh, we're watching Tom Cruise at the big screen,
Right,
like
yeah.
laying back.
There's always
It's just a big living room at that point.
Yeah, no, there's-
and we're all in Dad's chair.
there's always so many people who are like who don't know how to like work the chairs, and they're just kind of like sitting straight up, and then they'll see me be like fucking lay straight back, and they'll be like, oh, okay. Like, especially if you're sitting right next to somebody and they're just like, what is this guy doing?
That's how I figured it out. I saw a little like 10-year-old kid next to me be like,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can move these.
But yeah, there's something super relaxing about it. I don't like the buying the seats in advance.
Yeah.
Especially if I didn't have A-list, I'd fucking hate it. Like, A-list is kind of like the magic money card, where it's kind of like, well, it's fucking free.
Yeah.
I'll buy it, and even if I don't go see the movie, I have 3 this week to see, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But let's talk about a simple favor.
Yeah.
Honestly, though,
Before the comments on YouTube rip us to shreds.
a-
Talk about the movie already.
No, honestly though, if you see, I mean, again, how much movies at AMC are just cheaper too,
Are they?
compared to Regal. Regal's fucking expensive,
Oh.
really expensive, and Regal is like $10 most of the time.
That's fit for a king.
Like Regal is maybe $13.50 per movie, which is crazy.
And AMC's not $13.50 by you?
No, most of the time
Maybe
it's
because
like
it's
10
new.
something.
Maybe because it's new.
Maybe.
Maybe they're trying to get people to become
Why?
loyal to AMC.
What is the usual price for you for AMC?
I mean, it goes up every year, but I assume.
I remember
by now,
we saw
I assume by
like
now it's
Spider-Man
like 13.
Homecoming, and it was like 10 something. But maybe that was like around noon or something. Like it was
Probably.
a matinee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually it hasn't been cheaper than $12.50 in a long time.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah.
AMC for me has always been like, wow, that is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I try to see them. Now that I don't have Movie Pass, I'm like back on that like 10 a.m. movie grind.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. If you lived near an AMC, I would say AMC all the way.
Abandoned ship on Movie Pass.
Yeah. No, but I would. I'd recommend AMC A-List. That has been my review of AMC A-List. Again, Regal, fucking launch something to compete with that. I dare you.
They all need to. Cinemark has a Cinemark movie club, but it's $8.99 for 1 ticket a month.
Jeez. Yeah.
So I'm like,
What
okay,
is
like
that?
I'm getting like a $2 discount on your like average ticket price, like, and they do. It is like, oh, like you can buy additional tickets for friends for $8.99. So I guess if you go with people, the savings start to add up, and I think they do. They say like the movie tickets roll over month to month, but you're paying $8.99 every month. So
Okay.
it's just you're stacking up. Eventually, I could go see a bunch of movies for all the months that I paid for. So it hasn't been worth it yet at Cinemark, but I feel like they're all going to have to at some point compete with these other theaters.
Yeah.
Unless they're all just so geographically spread out that they don't have to yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like people just have theaters they go to because it's the close one.
Yeah. I really don't know. But yeah.
A simple favor. 20 minutes later, let's talk about the actual movie.
I'm gonna move to
One Labatt Blue line later.
I'm gonna move to Labatt Blue. Jeez, why is it so hard to say Labatt? Labatt Blue. I think you're anticipating the blue, and that's what makes it come out. Labatt.
Le Blue.
But anyway, I think I don't know.
On to the grapefruit.
It was between this or A House with Clocks on the Wall, or whatever the fuck that movie was called. And at first I was kind of like, I don't really care which one of these movies we see. And I think eventually I moved I think you were always in favor of this movie, right?
Yeah, I had no interest in seeing House with the clock on
And
the walls.
I thought this looked so stupid and trashy and everything. I don't particularly like, what's her name?
Anna Kendrick.
Yeah, Anna Kendrick.
Oh, I cannot stand her.
I don't like her in anything, really. I do like Blake Lively. Bless her soul. She's not a good actress.
Is she Gossip Girl?
Yes.
Or is she from another?
Yeah,
It is Gossip Girl?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if she's Gossip Girl, but she's on that show, Gossip Girl.
No. Dan Humphrey's Gossip Girl. Spoiler alert! I was gonna watch them. Hope you weren't gonna watch all fucking 8 seasons.
XOXO, fuck you, spoiler alert.
And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why Dan Humphrey is Gossip Girl. But it's, I don't know. I think at the last minute I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do a simple favor. And we saw The Predator and we saw Night School. And granted, those movies aren't great, but I think this was the best movie that we saw.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said in the Predator episode, I think the theme for this batch of movies that we saw is movies that could have been great and weren't. Like movies that had, maybe even not in the trailer or in the hype for the movies, but when you were sitting down and watching the actual movie, there was something there, and then it was squandered by the time you got to the end of the movie. And that's how I feel about this.
I don't know. I think this is a compliment, but it's a backhanded compliment. I think this movie is the best it could have been for what it was. I mean, like, I
think there's a
a
severe difference between the beginning of this movie and the end of this movie.
Okay.
Because I went in arguably happy I was seeing this and not The House with the Clock in the Walls. Like, I didn't want to see them trying to create another young adult fantasy series and knowing it was going to fail.
Yes.
Knowing there was not going to be a sequel. It was not going to do well enough. Like, I don't want to. I love Jack Black so much, and I don't want to see him fail again. Like,
he's done so many dumb movies at this point.
And like I don't know, like Jack Black, a kid that I like barely recognize, who hasn't really been in a whole lot, and then Cate Blanchett, like. I don't know. You need more than that in a movie, a kid's movie especially. And it looks so just physically dark in the trailers. Like, it looks like you're just going to have trouble seeing everything the entire time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Not
it looks
for it.
like they shot it in a fucking haunted
Oh,
house.
yeah. And then this has got this, like, bright, like, pastel-colored, like, sort of trailer going on. Even got, like, some, like, dark shades going on in a nice contrast. It just looks like a more pleasant visual movie to watch. I'm not a big Paul Feig fan or Anna Kendrick fan, but I do kind of like these sort of, like, I really liked Gone Girl just from a pure, like, entertainment aspect.
Yeah.
I really liked Girl on a Train just from a pure entertainment aspect, where I'm like, yeah, I'll get caught up in this, like, trashy, like, movie with a big twist at the end and, you know, just follow it, you know, for all it's worth. So I was kind of mildly excited to see this, and I thought it started out way better than I was expecting this to start. Like, I thought it had this, like, really nice singular tone to it. And that's something that I always talk about in this podcast. Like, I want something to be consistent and to know what it is and to stick with it. And I thought for the first half of this movie, this was, like, nailing it. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of the idea of, like, a mommy, like, blogger.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing to get on board with me.
But it was a tone, and it was consistent with it, and it was like a device that they were sticking with that was, like, actually working. You know, and, like, even if I don't like I think that's sort of a cringy concept of, like, the mommy blogger, and it seems sort of like a transparent attempt to be like, what's relevant now, like mommy bloggers, YouTube, whatnot. But it worked as sort of a cool narrative device where, like, she would be narrating stuff, like the very opening of the movie is like, yeah, it's been 5 days since if you've been following whatever, since my best friend, like, vanished and whatnot. And, like, revealing stuff through that was kind of a cool device. I thought it intrigued me. And he was consistent with it. Like, he kept it going for most of the movie. So, I don't know. I always give props when something can be consistent in tone and not be like, oh, we have to use this font in this scene and this font in this scene, and like even like we just reviewed. Next week we'll get to Night School, and it kind of jumps around between a bunch of different styles of comedy based on whatever's funny at that time. And the first half of this movie is pretty consistent in being like mildly funny. None of it is really like zany humor,
Right.
but being sort of touching in a way. Like I thought there was a little bit of heart in the first half of the movie, where it was almost more drama than it was like comedy. And then the second half starts to get like funky and zany and funny, and that's where I started to be like, okay, that's not what you set up for us in this movie.
Yeah. I immediately, right off the bat, like as soon as I saw the mommy blogger aspect of this, or narrative device, or captain's log, or whatever you'll call it, I was just kind of like, hey, oh man, we're gonna do this, aren't we? And it never grew on me, but I became tolerant of it. And it's like, honestly, I want to say that might have just been the worst aspect of this movie, is just because it looks so stupid. It just aesthetically looks fucking stupid. It like you're on a web page.
It's not actual YouTube. They couldn't get the YouTube layout to show out.
And like there's like it's so lazy too. They do like the lazy like drag and drop like plugin for like, like they just downloaded somebody's like plugin for like, oh, what's like glitchy, like for something that's streaming kind of, and they like kind of like move these two like pixels kind of like dot 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 dot, like kind of like in the middle of the screen, so like her face has like a little like, it's just kind of like, man, you just could have fucking played it like somebody who had like a like Verizon Fios and would have played like fucking fine.
Yeah.
I've played a million videos on bad internet and it's never looked like that. Yeah. It doesn't look like that. And I was fucking cracking up at like just like the bad fake comments that they'd play at the bottom of the screen the whole time. It reminded me of when we were like laughing at like The Circle, or it was just like the fucking most random comments. It was like, why is nobody at The Circle married? Just like they had the same dumb fucking comments at the bottom where it was kind of like, oh man, I feel so bad for your friend, she dead. Like it was just like comments in real life are dumb, but like when they're played next to something that's cinematic and not like lifelike, it's like it's so crazy and stupid. It's
I think also like the mommy vlogger personality plays up, and this may be just a very like personal comment, but plays up for me the part of Anna Kendrick's personality that is so grating for me, which is just this like pretending to be natural, but this very forced like, oh, I'm Anna Kendrick, I'm so crazy, I wear sweatpants and I eat pizza, like that's the part that like really annoys me. And that's kind of what her like vlogger personality is like,
right?
This like trying to be down to earth, like, hey mommers, whatever, like just doing that whole thing, and that was very grating. But again, I didn't mind the device of it. I thought it was sort of something to add just another small layer to this movie and make it a little bit more complex than it really was. And it is part of the original book that she is a mommy vlogger in the book.
Sure.
So, I mean, he's got to put it in there somehow.
Right.
He could have maybe just used a better plug-in for making it look like a YouTube video. I don't know why. Like, something that intrigues me about the movie that's out right now, I think it's still out, Searching, is that it looks like it's on a real MacBook. Yeah. And everything looks like the real applications, and Facebook has the real logo, and it's the current Facebook like layout and everything. I don't know why that's so hard for movies to. I don't know if they had to pay a lot to get the permission to show everything directly like that, or if other movies just don't hire accurate graphic designers for those like motion effects scenes.
I don't know. I think that's what it is.
They always do the stuff where it's like it sort of looks like iMessage. Like you get the idea that it's iMessage because it's a blue color for the text bubble.
Right.
But this is not actually how like iChat messages work with each other. But on Searching, everything in the trailer, I'm like, Yeah, that looks like they literally probably just screen captured
Yeah.
stuff happening on a MacBook screen.
The only thing I've heard, which is crazy, I haven't watched Searching. I wish we could have reviewed that or something. But what's it called? I heard the one complaint about it was that the mouse movement is unnatural.
Yeah.
Kind of, like where it's kind of like you click a path for it to go, like where it's not like how you would you'd be like, let's just see right here. Instead, it's like left to right, kind of where I heard the Unfriended or is that what it's called? Unfriended? Or what was the franchise that like originated that kind of screen capture?
Oh, I didn't know that was what that movie was like, but there's like Unfriended : something. I
Yeah.
what the
We have
tag for it
Unfriended,
is.
and then I think there's Unfriended Dark Web
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, and apparently, like, the mouse movement in that is like incredibly realistic, and it's like that's what makes it like very scary.
It is hard to
yeah.
capture that though, because I feel like if you're
Mhm.
making a movie, you're probably not thinking about the ways that we actually use the mouse. Where like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
like the mouse is sort of like if we're not sure about something, we move the mouse tentatively. Like we don't go right to let me hover over this and then decide if I want to click.
Right.
You move it slow if you're not sure about something, and
That-
if you're bored,
Mhm.
you're just moving the fucking mouse around. And sometimes you're moving it over here, and you're like, "Oh, that's not what I actually want. I'm going to go over here." And yeah, if they're just making a movie in post, despite being accurate elsewhere, yeah, they might be like, "And then we need it to go over here." So like a key point over here and a key frame over here.
Right, yeah, no, and I think that's almost what makes me. I read something about that, and I heard something about that on a podcast too, and it almost just made me want to watch like Unfriended instead of Searching or whatever, just because it was like the mouse movement in Unfriended is straight up fucking scary, like it's because it's real and it's fucking like, do I just I'll just click on this folder, like it's
I didn't
hesitant.
realize that's what
and
I knew Unfriended
yeah.
had to do with the internet. I didn't realize it was like
It's entirely
like a
on
screen capture.
a screen. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a whole genre now after Unfriended made it. But yeah, I mean, I still want to see Searching too. I heard it's good. But yeah, a simple favor.
Back to this movie. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think where to really dig into this movie
I
specifically.
see. I don't know what I've seen Anna Kendrick in that I haven't liked.
Up in the Air.
Oh God, I don't like her in that. She's
That's like a great movie, and then Anna Kendrick in it.
yeah. I've never seen any of the Pitch Perfect movies. I don't know. Even like I watched Table 19 last year. I'm sure I've watched a ton of movies with her in it, and I never like her, and I don't think that's any fault of hers. I think there's just something about her that maybe I just don't like. I kind of like her in this. I'm not like right home about her, but I'm like, okay, this fits in this movie.
This was like a movie that like reminded me of not liking her at
Okay.
parts. I think she's fine in the beginning, and then towards the end of the movie they start to lean into some of the things that also make her grating, that style of comedy that I don't really appreciate from her.
Right, yeah.
Just that very like, oh, flighty, like, oh, I'm so dumb type like comedy. Like,
Right.
she's not really a great like improv comedian, at least from the cuts that they're using in the movies.
Uh-huh.
But they try to make it seem like this very natural, like, physical performance that she's giving, and it doesn't. I'm not really buying it from Anna Kendrick. I think Blake Lively is great in this, though. I haven't actually really seen a whole lot with her. I think like the only movie The Shallows we saw, which she's not great in, and she was a little forced in. I guess I have seen a bunch because she was in The Town,
Oh yeah.
where she plays like the addict at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was in Woody Allen's movie that we saw.
Oh yeah.
Jesse
She was good in
Eisenberg.
that. Yeah.
She was pretty good in that. This might be one of the better things that I've seen her in, despite being a really weird script at the end of the movie. Like, I
Yeah.
think the character that they set up this movie is so much better when it's still in like the mystery mode of like, who is she? Like, there's something strange about her. She shows up to these like play dates wearing like a bow tie and like these like
Right.
strange outfits, and she's, you know, revealing, you know, some like really intimate stuff about herself, but then she doesn't want her picture taken, and she's very secretive about these like other aspects of her life. And the movie is definitely best when we haven't answered those questions yet, and it's just got this really nice ambiance of like, who the fuck is Emily? Like, what's really going on with that character?
Yeah, she's very confident, and she can kind of like really run the scene too. She can definitely kind of, it's like, I mean, I think I like Anna Kendrick in this movie because this movie plays like Serena, or what's her name? That's her Gossip Girl name. Blake Lively. Blake Lively kind of like fucking running the show, and like really being like, Jesus Christ, like, how do I deal with this like fucking Anna Kendrick character kind of? And I think that's what is appealing at the beginning of the movie, is that she's just kind of like, she's not playing along with her kind of like, I'm the cutesy kind of girl, like, you know, kind of thing. Even though Blake Lively is, I don't know what, I think there's a lot of fantastic fashion in this movie, but they continue to dress up Blake Lively like a magician's assistant. Like, it's so weird. Like, I think there's been so many like really great interpretations of like the modern businesswoman who's in charge, or just the modern businesswoman who wears a suit or whatever. Or, like, it's worked a lot like during this year. I think we've seen it a lot just in movies this year. But like Blake Lively looks like a magician's assistant.
I've seen a bunch of interviews where she talks about those outfits specifically, and I guess whoever was like in charge of like the costumes, or maybe it's just Paul Feig, that she's talking about someone basically being like, I don't know about that, like that's not gonna be sexy. And then in the interview she's like, no, like, trust us, like, we're gonna put her in a full suit and a bow tie and it's gonna be hot. And like the like implication is supposed to be that it did work out, and I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, it works out in terms of, it does help create this character who is so confident she'll wear whatever the fuck.
You're right.
And rock it, and she'll still look great.
She wears fucking weird shit, and you're like, I don't know about that, you know. It is kind of weird that she also has like this closet full of like expensive like dresses and stuff too, and that she wears like these suits. I don't know. Yeah, it's a little weird, just because like it's like Blake Lively, and a lot of the time Blake Lively is kind of utilized when she's just so incredibly beautiful, kind of, that you're, I don't know, kind of mesmerized by her and everything. Which, again, that's kind of her character in this movie, and they could have used that to effect. But again, I don't know. I just think that she could have been fitted well with just not as bizarre choices for wardrobe.
Yeah. As much as I don't like Anna Kendrick, and as much as I have problems with some of the writing later on in this movie, I do think that it is great how well established these two characters are. That it makes it just compelling to watch them in scenes together, even if I'm like, ugh, Anna Kendrick. Like, just from a pure movie standpoint, like, I don't have to like her character to be intrigued by the concept of a character I don't like against like the polar opposite of what that character is.
Yes.
You know, like Anna Kendrick being this like perfect mommy, stay-at-home mommy vlogger, and Blake Lively being this like sort of like shitty mom who is working, has intense love for her kid, but you know, is just so tired when getting home that she's just kind of like, oh fuck, like, do you drink? Does your kid drink? You know, there's something really compelling about that relationship between the two of them. And then there's also something compelling about the way that they're able to find what at one point feels like a genuine connection between the two of them.
Right.
And I guess I have to to give some of that credit to Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively for playing that well enough
Right.
that it works.
I also have to assign some of the credit to Paul Feig, who I really, again, howmanyfingerspodcast.com, look up our review of Ghostbusters, but I feel like we don't have a lot of kind things to say about him. It's just such a bad movie.
I appreciate some of his. I think Bridesmaids is great. That's about it. And Freaks and Geeks. I guess now knowing that he created that is one of my favorite TV series, so I have to give that a lot of credit.
Right. But just, I don't know. He was so insistent on... There was something about the press tour of Ghostbusters that was so bad. It was just kind of like... He's like, honestly, this movie is good, and anybody who says not is fake news. Like, he just, like, almost capitalized on that attitude even before Trump did. And it was just... It left a weird and bad taste in my mouth where it was just kind of like... I get it. Like, you gotta do what you gotta do for the studio or whatever, and like, it's fine, but like, you also have to understand, like, I don't know, he's fighting with critics so much, and he was making like humor about like, I don't know, they must have been blind, they must have not been watching my movie, you know. It's just kind of like, I was like, oh, what is this? It hurt me to watch him try to defend Ghostbusters a year or two after it was released, kind of. Like, it's just like, even on this press tour, he's still trying to fucking defend it with all his fucking might, and I'm just like, let it go, brother. Like, you know, like, it just kind of like, you made a pretty good movie here. Like, fucking, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because this movie is stylized, and like, I'm down for the fucking, like, late 60s French wave music or whatever.
That's part of the like singularity of the first half that I really enjoy. Where like I think of like Night School again that we're reviewing next week, which is like, you know, whatever like cheap music we can buy, whatever we can afford. Let's get Usher from like 2005 and like Outkast, a bunch of like really dated music for a movie that's not a period piece from the early 2000s.
Right.
And then this has like that music, but it fits because it's the music that Blake Lively's character listens to, because she's this weird zany person who's just like, yeah, I'm gonna put on some like French like 60s like music or like French 80s pop or whatever, just always like foreign language music she's putting on.
And it's not like, and again, and it's not like music that you wouldn't recognize too. You recognize like all these songs, you know, whether you watched fucking Mad Men or you went through like a weird French Tumblr phase in 2011 like I did, but it's just kind of like, it's like the minute like any of those songs come on, especially like, I think like one of the most fantastic scenes was when that like Sergei Gainsborough or whatever, like the Bonnie and Clyde song came on. Like, that's such like a really great and iconic song. I mean, I think I first saw that in Mad Men, or I heard that elsewhere, but then it really like cemented itself in like a Spotify playlist for me, like around like Mad Men, when like Joan is like making out with that guy in that like club, and there's all those colors and everything. It's such a great song, and again, there's a lot of really great uses of these songs in this movie.
It has this ambience.
It has a tone.
There's a very clear tone where there's a little bit of humor sprinkled in, you know, and like a lot of it I feel it comes from the like sort of like Greek chorus is not the word, but like the three like the moms from the school, essentially Andrew Rannells, what's her name? I don't have the cast up right now. She's on Crashing. Aparna Nancherla and Kelly McCormick. Just kind of them being, you know, I guess maybe they are the Greek chorus in a way, but they're filling us in on like, oh, like, you know, here's, you know, how the Blake Lively character is taking advantage of whatever, and they're kind of like these sassy characters that are bringing humor that way. I don't know, I thought all that was nice, and then it started to get like kind of dark. And I was even down for that because that made more sense with the first half than the humor that they bring in the second half does. Like when they have when they find the body, like when the Emily character is actually dead in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Man, the bat blue light really shines in the grapefruit flavor.
Yeah.
I must say that, as the third flavor that I've tried.
This is still my second one, but that flavor sticks out more than the tangerine for sure.
This really comes through. And, I'm a big grapefruit juice fan, so maybe that's why it is. I think there should be more grapefruit beers. All right. I just wanted that to be a little note. No, I agree on. Okay, so I think you're more second half, not so good. I think
maybe not even the whole second half, maybe the last third.
But I think there's a part in the middle that weighs, and it just it sinks a little. It just I got bored at some point during the middle.
What's going on during the middle?
I think it's like the investigation. It's when Anna Kendrick is like, I better go to Michigan.
Oh yeah. That's I'm considering that to be like the second half.
And I'm just
where I started to be like, where is this tone coming from? Is when, I like the
Is this
whole...
beer making you super gassy?
Yeah,
I've been
we're drinking
burping
a
this
lot of it.
entire fucking episode. This entire when you're speaking, I'm like,
get it all out now so I can talk.
Hi, welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up?
Welcome to the third episode. No, when when the police investigation starts ramping up, and she tries on the one dress from Emily,
yes,
and she can't get out of it, and it's like this physical comedy scene where she can't get out of it. She's writhing in it while the Gone Girl detective essentially is there interviewing her, and she is just playing up this physical comedy, which again I've never really appreciated Anna Kendrick for before. Never thought it was one of her strengths. And she's trying to play up be zany and blah blah blah. It's just really not working for me. It's not this tight controlled humor that we have from earlier on in the movie, and it's not a dark humor that we had earlier on. A lot of the humor from before would be some of the lines that we even were able to get in the trailer, because even if it wasn't dark humor in the sense of R ratings, it was just humor with a dark tilt, like Blake Lively being do you drink? Does your kid drink? There's something about that that's going beyond PG comedy or whatever. And when we get into the scene of her being interrogated like that, it starts to go into physical comedy. It starts to go into zany comedy, where it's just kind of look how funny and weird this character is being right now.
Yeah.
She's so awkward. We as the audience know that she knows something and she's uncomfortable right now. And there's a lot of other humor scenes later on that are sort of playing on that. And and then they don't even stay consistent till the first half is this style of humor and the second half is another style of humor. The second half just goes all over the place. Without going into spoilers, there's some scenes towards the very end of the movie where it starts to take this sarcastic tone that never existed in the movie before that. It wasn't this let's do this send up of mommy culture or whatever before that. It was a real honest look at it's hard to make friends as a mom, and there's different ways to be a mom, and
Well, I think the biggest problem is Anna Kendrick's character and her kind of lack of I don't know. I never saw her changing, but she was changing.
She changes a lot, and I see, because
it's unearned kind of.
Yes.
She's incredible. First of all, she is this completely incredibly innocent character, and that doesn't entirely make sense for when she goes into her very dark past of like I'm just gonna like enter spoilers or whatever this is. But it's just kind of like, oh man, like my brother died and my husband died and my dad died. It's kind of like, Jesus, like, all right, well then I guess I don't know where this like bubbly kind of personality, whatever is coming from, but it's strange that she kind of like takes this hard shift into kind of like this more jaded, kind of more take control character, like when her just like friend disappears, you know, like it's weird. It's weird that this is the point that she starts changing. And there's also kind of like she goes from, I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
Well, no, I mean, I think you're
okay.
You're basically following.
I just didn't want to like cut you off on anything
keep
you were
going.
gonna say. Okay, it's kind of like, yeah, near the end of the movie, like she's kind of like, I'm the guy that's in the control now, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think I started to, like you were talking about the dress scene where she's getting interrogated or whatever. I thought it was kind of strange that he was, I mean, I know it's not abnormal for police to be like, nobody's not a suspect kind of thing, but it was kind of like, you know, like you could be involved in this shit. And she's like, what? Me be involved? And it's just kind of like, she seems guilty, oddly.
She's acting guilty.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't play as awkward as much as it seems like I felt like, should I know about something that she should feel guilty about, like, during this scene? It was kind of weird. And then again, the part where it really starts to kind of, like, sag in the middle, and it's like, I start to...
That scene,
I
the
start to
interrogation
check out,
scene
yeah.
is, I think it's cringy because it's exaggerated, where the rest of the movie, despite being, like, an exaggerated concept overall...
Mm-hmm.
plays out very real in real time.
Okay.
You know, like the scenes that are happening, like I'm saying, like even though these are sort of like strange characters, they're very well defined.
Mm-hmm.
Like their relationship, which doesn't seem like it should work, does feel real because
Mm-hmm.
it feels very well established. But then in that interrogation scene, like that doesn't seem like a way that anyone, even someone who had actually murdered someone, would act in an interrogation with police. Like the humor is supposed to be like, oh no, she's making such an idiot of herself. But it's like nobody would like even go that far, like in an interrogation by police, you know?
Right. It's also like, I don't know why they set up, what's his name? I don't know, when that
Henry
investigator... Yes, talking to Henry Golding, that investigator is like totally like, man, she bad. Like talking about like Anna Kendrick or whatever. And I thought that was gonna come back to something where he'd like let her off easy or something. And then he kind of just goes hard on her for the rest of the film. And I didn't understand, like, I guess, like, maybe they needed a character's voice to be like, oh, Anna Kendrick's attractive. You know, like, I don't know, it was
Yeah,
kind of weird.
well, I think that detective is just kind of always doing the... Like, because even when he is, like, sort of leaning in hard on Anna Kendrick, he does it in that way that's like, oh, yeah, no, like, I get it. Like, what? Like, he has a... It's, like, sort of sarcastic, sort of like, I'm trying to be your buddy, but in a way that's very obviously me trying to get you to say what I want you to say for this investigation.
Right.
Like, it's some sort of interrogation tactic that he's using.
But yeah, it's, I don't know. There was something missing, in my opinion, between, I don't know what's going on with this yada yada, like this investigation, whatever, and like, I'm gonna drive to Michigan and fucking figure this shit out by myself. And it's kind of like, even if...
There's a thread of character progression missing because her character, as it's established in the beginning of the movie, is bubbly and innocent and like take charge in a like mommy vlogger sense, but like she in some certain social senses she feels very not at home, so she's sort of like shy in that sense. She's not like a like socially take charge person. She's someone who's like, oh yeah, like I'll bring the brownies to like the school event, but I'm not gonna like host the party that everybody comes to, and I'm not gonna be, you know, the talk of the town or anything. And then she sort of turns into this like take charge person through the investigation, without there being like a, well, where did this confidence come from, and where did this like switch come from? And by the time we get to the end of the movie, it's a complete 180 where she's doing stuff that we're like, no fucking way are you doing that. And that's where the tone doesn't feel consistent with the beginning half of the movie. Like, again, like the compliments them levying on the script for being like, these characters are so well established, that's only for the first half of the movie, really, because they just throw that all out the window by the time we get to the last half. And it's, I don't know how much of that's coming from the book to begin with. Like, I don't know if she was a different character in the beginning half of the book and it makes more sense for how the ending plays out, or they changed the ending
mystery,
for the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. These kind of thriller, mystery, these are so hard to adapt into movies, too. Because it's kind of like, I remember reading The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, or whatever, and it's like Daniel Craig's character, for a fucking really long time in that book, is just researching, and he's just like, today I got a sandwich, and then I drank some coffee, and then I ordered another sandwich, and then I made another cup of coffee, and then I made even another cup of coffee, and then I wrote a little more in my notebook, and then I got another cup of coffee, and then I finished off with a sandwich, and then I went to bed, and then I woke up, and then I got another cup of coffee, and then I went to the local deli, and I got a sandwich, and it's kind of like, yeah, we fucking got it! Like, you know, like, it's just kind of like, mysteries take time, but like, it's just, and there's just like there's a balance that it takes between being completely naive and being like, all right, it's time to take charge, and it's time for me to investigate what the fuck is actually going on here. And I think this movie doesn't do the, you know, the coffee and sandwich thing as much as I want it to. I don't know. I just, the middle of this movie fucking sags, and it doesn't make sense, and I don't know. There's something particularly not exciting about her investigating this at all.
Yeah, no, because I think the movie establishes this tone in the beginning. The tone that is working is drama with splashes of comedy, and like, I don't know if it's drama with splashes of dark comedy or dark drama with splashes of comedy. But either way, like, and I think the part that you're considering the middle is actually really like the last third. Okay. Maybe last like 3/8 of the movie. It's not fully like the last half, because like in the middle of the movie there was a while, like it was a while into this movie before I was like, oh no, this is getting bad. There was a while where I was like, could this be my favorite movie of the year? Like, secretly, like I was just enjoying it so much for the beginning of this movie, and even like when it starts to get into some of the like pulpier stuff, that's not really attributable to like the mystery, like the whole like her starting to sleep with Henry Golding. I was like, oh yeah, I'm into this trash right now. Like, this is like some like Desperate Housewives type shit going on, like sleeping with your dead best friend's like husband, and then like again, even like as like the kid is starting to be like, oh, like yeah, like I saw mommy like at the playground today or whatever, like that, while we're still living in that mystery, that's good. And then when they start to answer the questions of the mystery in the last 3/8 of the movie is when it starts to go downhill. So the investigation ramps up. She starts her own investigation and ramps that up, and we like change locations, and she's not acting in a way that's consistent with her character anymore, and she gets put into these like strange situations where she does, it's not like the juxtaposition that we've had before of like mommy blogger meets like worldly like model for like a PR agency or whatever, you know. Like the juxtaposition of Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively is so effective. The juxtaposition of Anna Kendrick and like Blake Lively's character's mom, not as effective in this movie, you know, or the other people that she has to interact with later on.
It was so weird. it was very strange at the point where Anna Kendrick goes and makes a post on the Mommy blog, and she's like, so I went to go check out in Michigan, kind of yada, yada, yada. And then it cuts to Blake Lively in a hotel room. She's like, shit!
Yeah,
And I was like, it was such like a weird shift in the power dynamic that wasn't set up, and I don't like. It was weird that she would.
It wasn't even earned because it was like it would have made
step.
sense if like Blake Lively's character was like ragging on Anna Kendrick all the time, like you're a fucking wuss or whatever. I'll always be in control, and then Anna Kendrick, like then we'd be like rooting for Anna Kendrick to be like, okay, yeah, like do that switch. But like for us, like we only saw them interacting, and it did seem like their friendship was genuine. And then we've just learned a bunch of like cursory facts about Blake Lively's past. And then we just are just kind of like, oh, okay, now they're not best friends anymore. Now they're enemies, and now she's investigating it just to fuck her over. Like she started the investigation to be like, I have to find out where she is because I care about my best friend, and we don't get the switch of like, okay, when did this become? Not I have to find my best friend. Now I have to fuck her over and like make her feel like shit on my web blog, and
Right, and I also
and now it's about justice for people I've never met before.
When she's reacting to the vlog, and she's like, ah, shit, and she's just kind of like laying in a hotel bed, I'm pretty sure that's the reveal that she's still alive, which is a really kind of like anticlimactic, like, oh, there's Blake Lively and we thought she was dead, kind of.
Yeah, and she's in a hoodie now.
That's like the physical, yeah, she just kind of looks like shit in a hotel room. And it was just kind of like really...
And it was also a misleading reveal because I was expecting, like after I saw that, I was expecting the rest of the scenes that she was going to show up, she was going to be dressed like shit. And it was going to be like, I'm so sick of playing that character that I've been playing for the past years in this stupid fucking life I've been living with my husband and my children. And I just want to be the real me. I don't like wearing... And I thought she was going to make fun of, like, I don't like wearing fucking bow ties or whatever. But then, like, they just have the one scene in the hotel, and then every time she shows up after that, she's like... in her full, like, tailored suit and shit.
Yeah, I don't know how you could have done it, but I think the first reveal should have been, like, when...
she's at the restaurant with Henry Golding.
Yes, Henry Golding. Yeah, because it's kind of like, whoa! Like, you've seen a fucking ghost, kind of. It's just kind of like, like, I saw your dead body, kind of. Like, as opposed to somebody who's watching a YouTube video and is like, darn it! Like, that's so anticlimactic.
It's like in Gone Girl, which, I mean, is a very obvious comparison for this movie. I think even in the trailers they say from the producers or creators of Gone Girl or something like that. Something is related to Gone Girl in the trailer for this movie. Like, it's not until, like, I don't know, time-wise, I want to think, like, plot-wise, it's like halfway through the movie when you have the reveal of Rosamund Pike's character being alive, and it's like the scene of her like driving and whatnot, and then they sort of start to establish, it's a big reveal to show that character is still alive, and they fake their own death.
Because it is like, I don't know, this movie also doesn't play it like something like the kid being like, I saw Mom at recess. It's kind of like, all right, that's hard to like miscommunicate, kind of, or something like I thought like a real like, I think the biggest scare, kind of, because I do think there's a lot of elements at play. I think there's humor, I think there's this kind of thriller, and I think there's this kind of like almost borderline horror that's going on all at the same time in this movie, and they never really like commit to one completely, which I'm okay with, is when you kind of have this montage of like, oh, her moving in, her putting her clothes in Blake Lively's closet or whatever, and then she comes back to the house and Blake Lively's clothes are all back in there, and it kind of has like some sort of crescendo that like scares you, and like it's actually kind of fucking freaky. You're kind of like, whoa, what the fuck? But like somebody else could have done that, kind of, like somebody, like there's nobody else that's like I look like your mom, and I'm giving you this note, and
Yeah,
yada
yeah.
yada yada. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I felt like the little kid kind of like spoils, like, oh well, she's still alive. Then you know, if
I'm not a fan of that kid actor as well.
both the child actors are terrible.
Yeah.
I don't
They
know.
deliver lines like kids that are fed lines.
Mhm.
They maybe cast them a little bit too young for this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Because they're reading lines that seem more mature than those kids' actual ages.
Definitely. Henry Golding is just doing what is asked of him, I can imagine.
He's being a good beefcake.
Yeah.
Hot as fuck.
We could have had more beefcake stuff, honestly. He's just kind of like, hey, how's it going, guys?
He is kind of like the perfect casting for this because he, like, on like 99% of the surface is this like really hot beefcake guy with like a British accent, but he also has one of those faces where like if you really look close, there's like a gap beneath, like between his teeth. So like when he starts to be like made to look like a fool in this movie, some of that stuff, I don't know if that's intentional in the way that they shot those scenes, but you start to be like, oh, he's kind of like almost not as attractive now as he was in the beginning of the movie. So that's either really well directed and shot by Paul Feig or just perfect casting.
Right, yeah.
Someone who knew that if you made him look like an asshole, we're going to look at the gap between Henry Golding's teeth.
Yeah, no, I get that. This has one of those, like, endings of a film that's kind of like... I don't know what movie we're talking about recently where I was just kind of... It was just like one of those fucking... I don't know, it might have been all the way back at that Jennifer Lawrence, like... film with...
Mother?
No, the fucking Red Sparrow.
Oh.
Where it's kind of like, oh, it's quadruple crossing, you know, like where it's kind of like, you crossed me with the, when I thought it was this, but it was actually this, and then it was actually this, and then it was actually this kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the film thought that it was a bunch of twists, but it just kind of lined up at where the trailer made you think the movie was going to go.
Yeah.
That Blake Lively faked her own death for some nefarious purposes.
Or just like even at the end where it was kind of like, I don't know, I was so confident. I don't know whether I thought I was so confident or I thought the film was going to be so like feminist almost, that it was going to be like, let's fucking pin this shit on Henry Golding. Like, you know, like I was sold on that, and then it was kind of turned into like this, oh, it's a fake gunshot, and then it's, oh man, she's got the real gun, and I don't know.
Yeah, I hated that whole, and again, because it felt out of character for the Anna Kendrick character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like even if she's being put up to it by the police, like she's acting in a way that wouldn't have seemed real for her character to the Emily character.
Mm-hmm.
And then even after they like step out of that whole sort of charade that they're putting on, when they're like outside and like Blake Lively's character gets hit by like the car at the end, and Anna Kendrick is kind of like trash talking her.
I
And I'm
know,
like,
I
that's not your character.
that so much. Oh, honey, don't like walk on your knees.
And
I was
again,
like,
in a movie where their friendship seemed fake and Blake Lively was actually being a bitch to Anna Kendrick, that might be like an earned thing to be like, oh yeah, she finally got what was coming to her. But Blake Lively's character didn't do anything to Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
Like her all of her offenses were against other people, and like I don't know, are we just supposed to believe that like Anna Kendrick's character is such a warrior for justice that she's willing to be the sassy person to defend like people that were dead that she didn't even like know about, like,
right,
you know?
Yeah, it's so confusing. It's, I don't know.
And there was never any like I was waiting for there to be like a real sentimental scene of her mourning the end of this like friendship, because like she is so excited to have this friend, and the part of the sentiment of the first half of the movie is like, it is hard to make friends as moms, and you know there doesn't have to be this like, you know, adversarial relationship between stay-at-home moms and working moms, and there was just a lot going on in the first half that like seemed like it was working, and I totally bought in because of the acting and the writing to this being a real relationship that was working, like despite them being drastically different characters. And then the end of the movie is just kind of like, oh yeah, and then like that best friend that you had, even though the whole first half of the movie was about how you didn't have any friends, and then that friendship ends and you're just kind of like, yeah, and fuck you too, I'm gonna go back to having no friends now. Like, it would have made more sense for even her doing that to be like, you know, like, what the hell, like, you were my best friend and you couldn't tell me, I told you about me fucking my brother and you couldn't, like, you know, tell me your darkest secret and whatnot. Like, there's a lot left on the table there and just squandered from the first half of this movie. I loved the first half of this movie. There was a good half hour to 45 minutes of this movie where I was like, I almost like this better than Hereditary and Eighth Grade and a bunch of other really great movies this year, just because it seems so singular and solid and sure of itself, and then it just completely forgets what it is. It felt like they forgot how to end this movie, and they were just kind of like, fuck, like Anna Kendrick could be sassy now, and just whatever's funny, let's just throw a bunch of stuff and let's make this movie end at some point. Whereas the first hour of it felt like someone who loved making movies, someone who like it felt like someone's like first movie in a way. Like, it felt like such care was put in to the beginning of this movie compared to the end.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like my first complaint with this fucking film, where it's like my best friend, my best friend, my best friend, kind of, and then that it ends like unearned with kind of like, oh honey, your fucking knees, you better like watch out, like crawling away from the police that I called. Like, it's just like
it was like a reality show, like Talking Head type sassy.
It was just kind of like, and again, it kind of like ended in a way, or just like Anna Kendrick's personality at the end was kind of like something that would like more like fashioned for like a Jimmy Fallon like kind of like interview or something, like, where it's just so fucking fake that it's just like, okay, yeah, I don't know, whatever. I also hate like the fucking, I hate when like movies that are like completely fictional are like, this character went on to go do this. It's kind of like
Blake Lively's doing layups in prison now.
Yeah, where it's kind of like, oh yeah, is that what you thought of? Like, it's so sad. It's just kind of like, oh, is that the fucking fictional sentence that you wrote in your screenplay? Like, it's so fucking stupid.
I think they had sentences for everyone. Yeah. But then they had a scene for Blake Lively, and like Anna Kendrick's character's sentence was like, and she went on to get like 6 million subscribers or whatever on YouTube, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I barely care when that happens in real life. Yeah. I don't care that a fictional character got a bunch of subscribers.
Henry Golding wrote a book, but his publisher, like, about the whole thing, but his publisher thought it was too unrealistic. Like, oh, and you're writing that about an actual fictional story? Like, it's like, yeah. His publisher thought that a fictional story was fictional. It's
his publisher is from the real world.
Stupid. Yeah, it's like, oh, I hate that shit. Like, that was like okay in The Sandlot, and that was it. Like, any other movie that tries to do that is like, oh god, no.
I also thought the second affair by the Henry Golding character was a little bit over the top and unnecessary.
Like, student affair.
Yeah, and it just like cluttered the script up. It was like all we needed was him being willing to move on and fuck the Anna Kendrick character right away, because then like that even puts him in a like half sympathetic, half guilty category where it's like, well, technically he thought she was dead, you know, like who's to say how fast you can move on? Like, Patton Oswalt got married like pretty quick after like his wife's dead.
A lot of people are moving on real quick,
you know. It's where we could have still had sympathy for him, so that when the turn at the end happens and he's starting to get fucked over by Blake Lively. We're rooting for him and not Blake Lively.
Right.
Whereas like they sort of start to make everyone a shitty person in the end. So I don't know who to care about in the end at that point, when it's like, well, Blake Lively murdered some people, but Henry Golding is a serial cheater and probably has been cheating this entire time.
Yeah, and the kind of like university thought, the university like girlfriend or teacher or professor, I don't know what.
It's like a
or
teacher's
student
assistant or something.
Yeah, I don't know what she was, but it was just nothing came of that either. I don't know. She was just kind of
like undermined him, because there was also a lot of parts of this movie where I'm like losing my train of thought from this Labatt.
The Lablatt curse.
I just had a whole rant, and it just
The Lablatt family
completely
curse
vanished from.
Once you have that grapefruit family Lablatt,
No, hold on. I'm like,
he's coming back.
I'm grabbing it. It's coming back now. There is like a part of the character building for the Henry Golding character that is built on this, like how he's almost like I almost like sort of like ruined my career because I've spent these last 10 years just chasing this Blake Lively character, and like she's this sort of like tangential thing that I can like, all I can do is try my best to hold on to it. That doesn't fit with him being like, oh, but I'm also fucking my teacher's assistant on the side, like, especially when Blake Lively is like so DTF all the time in this movie. Like, clearly the sex is not a problem for them, so he's not like this just like horny crazed like person. You know, it just, is he lying all the time? Because he seems very genuine in this movie. Like, they have all these sentimental moments where he's like, yeah, like, you know, she's this person that like I'm trying to understand more, and I'm just keep trying to get closer to her, and she won't let me get closer. And it's just a weird choice to be like, oh yeah, but he's a man, so he's a serial cheater, and he's sleeping with every woman that he can get his hand on.
Yeah, I don't completely understand that, especially in like, yeah, again, under a circumstance where she's like, well, it's me or your mom, kind of, you know? It's just kind of like, if he's gonna cheat, he should also just have the confidence to be like, yeah, my mom.
Yeah, bye.
You know, like,
yeah.
This is my mom's really expensive ring. Listen, I got this girl at college and she's DTF, and yeah, like, it's just, I don't know. It's also, I don't know. I was just like so confused by like her career and everything too. I was just kind of like, oh, okay, like, sure. I don't know. It was just weird. Just a weird side story thing.
Yeah, also like the guy who played the Dennis Nylon, or Denis Nylon, or whatever it was. I'm not a huge fan of that actor.
I don't even know who that is. Yeah,
he was in Homeland. He was like really good for the first like 2 or 3 seasons, and then his character arc went downhill, so he went downhill. He was in a bunch of other stuff, mostly like bit parts and stuff.
And it was this story also starts out like, this movie also really starts out like, I don't know, I love like the fucking fashion, and it's really fucking good, and it's really like on point for all these characters, and everybody's like dressed appropriately, and then it does take a turn really
At the office.
when she goes to the office, and it's like I want to be like, why are you wearing like Hermes like handkerchief with like the fucking outfit that you're wearing, and like, what is this guy wearing? And it's all weird. Like, it all made sense when it was kind of like
it was
Blake
weird
Lively
because she puts on the funky outfit to be like, this is what I understand fashion to be, as someone who doesn't know fashion. But she doesn't look that different from like Blake Lively dressing really funky in her outfits, and the way that this guy looks, because they dress him almost as like a stereotype of like high fashion, like metro fashion,
right? Yeah. It's just, it's all confusing, and it made a little more sense with Blake Lively, but like once it gets to that scene, I was just kind of like, all right, everyone looks weird and trashy, and it doesn't. I don't know. It's
And
not
they
working for me.
they like make fun of, like, they have the line comparing him to Tom Ford. It's like, Tom Ford doesn't dress like that.
No, Tom Ford is fucking impeccable.
Yeah.
and like never looks like that. You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's just I don't know. That's weird.
He shouldn't have been indistinguishable from Anna Kendrick's like funky fashion, trying to imitate high fashion. Not to harp on the cheating thing, but it's just like there was enough morally questionable behavior in him sleeping with Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
Because that could just be like, well, it was a mistake. It's one instance or one relationship. Whereas like him sleeping with two different girls and basically cheating on two women with two women at the same time, like that starts to be like, all right, well now he's just an absolute piece of shit, and that's serial bad behavior. And it's hard to have any sympathy for him at that point. It just kind of ruins him as a character.
Right.
Whereas, like, had they not done it, then it's like, well, we're rooting for Anna Kendrick most of all, and then we're half rooting for him because, you know, it's kind of like the Ben Affleck in Gone Girl thing. Like, he's a piece of shit, but he's not someone who deserves to be framed for murder.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah,
even
exactly.
if we don't like him as a person, we're still like, well, no, she's still the bad person in this movie. And that's what this movie is sort of lacking as well. Trying to Labatt think through. There was one more. Trying to see through this Labatt cloud in my head. There's like one other big point that I was trying to get around to a rant on. It'll come to me. Keep going if you have something else to say.
I really don't. I'm kind of at the end of the points that I was going to make. I do feel similarly. Where I was really on board with this film. I mean, I think it started off rough with the mommy blogger bullshit, but then I was like, this is good. Like,
So you liked more the last half of the movie?
No, I think I just liked. I mean, they opened this film with the mommy blogger stuff. So I think once I got into, I don't know. Like it felt like I love Gossip Girl and I love like how this kind of like opens like man, it's these two different people and it's this place and it's this fashion and it's this everything. I don't know, I was on board. I think I think it kind of weighs in the middle and then it kind of gets a little ridiculous.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna harp on. Again, first half of the movie, impeccable in many ways. They have like the flashback, which is told in this very nice, stylized way, where it's the like voiceover of Blake Lively keeps pressuring Anna Kendrick to be like, no, what happened? Like more happened. Like you guys didn't just make out. You guys did more. And it's this like unreliable narrator where she's not willing to admit what's really going on, and we're seeing in slow motion in this nice slow motion scene, like this wordless scene that's playing out completely narrated by the present day Anna Kendrick talking to Blake Lively. This like thing where she ended up sleeping with her like half brother at that point. And that's like a really nice way to show like a flashback, because it's like a little bit darker, I think, to just show it in like slow motion with like lying going on. Like it makes it seem like this dark part of her past. But then like later on they completely abandon that style and they just go for like flashback, present time. No like color grading or anything, just like real time, like let's just have a memory of what happened from beforehand with no even like real like triggering of like what really happened with your like what. It's just like, oh, we're gonna go in here, we'll do some exposition so the audience understands. Like, you know, like it was really nicely placed the way they did it in the first half of the movie. It was natural. It felt like they're talking about it.
Crashing the car or whatever.
Yeah, even when they showed the car crash, that was kind of like she's talking about it.
I
and
like
she's
that.
Like,
it's nicely done. Yeah,
like are you married or whatever? She's thinking of the car crash. So we see it. But later on, when they're explaining like that it was the brother and the husband that got in the car, and for like what reason, like it's like a fully played out scene with like older or younger Anna Kendrick. And
Yeah, I don't like that either. I don't know. Again, it's harder to believe that we've arrived at this version of Anna Kendrick after something like that has happened, especially when you have like a fucking husband who is like that demented, who's like, "Is that my baby? I'm gonna fucking take him in the car and fucking crash into the fucking. Oh, I'm gonna fucking drive full speed into a wall," kind of. You know, like it's
Yeah.
just like kind of like, okay, how did somebody like you marry a fucking like psychopath
Yeah.
like that who's like just like literally one detail and he's like fucking flying off the walls, kind of like no thought, no threat, just really just like, yeah, I'm gonna take him on a ride, like, like fucking like into
although, to their credit, in
Uh-huh.
these like intricate flashbacks that they end up going into, she doesn't seem like the same person that she is then.
right.
So I guess you could maybe think of the conclusion of like all this horrible shit happened and this is sort of her defense mechanism.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't jive with the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Agreed,
where like
yeah.
there should have been some sort of unraveling of that,
Mm-hmm.
or an explanation for that.
It's all, I don't know. It's so hard to make a movie like this without seeing the seams, you know, where it's kind of like, man, like, I set up such a great premise. Now, how do I make this fucking believable?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think it really takes this masterful director, writer, whoever, editor, whoever's behind the scenes to kind of like make it all flow. And I think this doesn't come out on top.
I think it's hard to end stories like this. It's like most horror movies where like it's always great where you're like, what the fuck is this ghost? And then you show you the ghost and you're like, oh god damn it. Like,
Right.
another paranormal motherfucker. Like I think the only time, not a horror movie, but the only time with like these sort of pulpy stories that it has really worked through until the ending is Gone Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will disagree, but I think
Right.
generally it's understood that Gone Girl, because it's a David Fincher movie, is
Oh, right. Yeah.
at least a mature movie and a consistent movie all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like the beginning, you probably like the end.
Mhm.
Whereas like Girl on the Train, another okay, pretty good pulpy type movie like this, also sort of falters in the end. Where like,
Right,
for most
yeah.
of it, you're like, man, the mystery's kind of cool. And I'm really liking Emily Blunt's performance as this sort of alcoholic person who's trying to piece together what's going on while she's blacked out. And then it turns into this fucking like weird like domestic thriller in the end, and that's not really as cool.
Right. Yeah.
For a lot of movies, it's cooler to live in the mystery of like, what's going on here?
Right.
I don't know
Of
what's
course.
going on here.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And again, I kind of thought the Henry Golding character, I thought there was going to be some sort of punishment for him, and there really wasn't, which I thought was kind of weird.
You did
'Cause-
get literally shot.
Oh, definitely, but like also I thought there was going to be some sort of legal implication.
His publisher
something.
didn't believe his story.
Mm-hmm. This is too wild, because this is actually something that never happened. I don't know. Just because he was such the cheating bad man, and he was cheating on all the women, and all the women were like, we gotta get back to him. Like, it was just kind of that whole graveyard scene where it was just kind of like, let's drink martinis and talk about how bad that man is.
Yeah, I thought it was going
Yeah.
to turn into like John Tucker Must Die at one point.
Right, yeah. It was just real. Again, it was just kind of like, oh man, they thought this, but it's actually this, but they thought this, and it's actually this, and they thought this is it's like the quadruple
It
crossing.
started to become
like,
like similar to Gone Girl in the ways that I don't like Gone Girl.
Right,
Like I
yeah.
like a lot about
Mhm.
Gone Girl. I don't like the way that Gone Girl was received in this way, where it's like, oh, here's this woman who like murdered like a person and sent someone else for murder, and that's okay just because her husband was cheating on her. Like,
Right, yeah.
it sets up this whole weird thing, and like I know that that's supposed to be sort of a narrative and a commentary in and of itself, and that's fine, but the reception to it was weird, and it felt like this was sort of in the end of the movie an answer to that, where it was like, oh yeah, he's cheating, so it's okay that he's going to get fucked over in this way. And I didn't know who to root for in the end of this movie.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Obviously Anna Kendrick, but of Henry Golding and Blake Lively. Like,
yeah, I don't really know what this was a commentary on at the end of the day.
yeah, I thought it started out on a commentary of like mom culture and mommy vlogging and making friends as a mom and a lot of stuff about that. And then it sort of just went into like a parody of high fashion, and then dark comedy, and then like sassy, zany comedy and sarcasm. Right. And like I've said too many times before in this review, it started out so singular and pure and consistent, and then it just went in a million different directions. But now that the GoPro has died, let's get into our finger ratings.
Yeah, let's do it.
On review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 84% based on 162 reviews. Excuse me. Leblat, with an average rating of 7 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, twisty, twisted, and above all, simply fun. A Simple Favor casts a stylish mommy noir spell strengthened by potent performances from Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively. I don't know what to give this movie at all.
I can go first.
Yeah, go for it, please.
Again, I think this was the best movie that I saw out of the 3 movies that we've seen this block of movies that we've decided to review. I don't know. That also just makes it hard. I'm still kind of deciding, like Mike probably is. I think I'm gonna give it like a 3.5 though.
Damn.
Yeah. I enjoyed myself. This is the entirety of this movie. I think it kept a consistent tone. I think it definitely became problematic in the back half. Just with, again, I'm not crazy about how it ended, whatever, but I really enjoyed the time that I spent with this movie, and I don't know whether that's just like Stockholm syndrome, because it's just kind of like, cool, I've spent so much time with these bad movies, like maybe I really like this, and I don't know, at this point in this year, I'm gonna have to give it a 3.5 just because I'm like, I don't know, it's just one of the better movies that I've seen done, and I really gotta hand it to Paul Feig, because like I was so down to hate this movie because of Anna Kendrick and Paul Feig, like after the fucking Ghostbusters movie, and I think it had such a stylish like beginning of this movie and tone and everything. I think it really, and again, the end of this movie doesn't ruin this movie as much as again that LeBlat burp again that LeBlat blurp as I'm also like congested. It's not helping at all. I can't breathe out of my nose, but I don't know. I don't think the end is not great, but I don't think it harms this movie as much as the end of like a movie like Tully or something like harms it. So I think it's a little more consistent in tone.
Invalidate the first half.
Right. So yeah, I think I'm gonna give it 3.5 fingers. which is crazy. I did not see myself. And like, I was like almost kind of against this movie where I was kind of almost going to be like, Mike, let's see fucking Harry Potter Jr. and like whatever the fuck that movie is. Because like, I really don't want to see this like trashy fucking offshoot of like the Emily Blunt movie.
Yeah, which we both ended up liking,
Right?
despite
Yes.
not wanting to see that
Again,
as well.
Yeah.
I think these pulpy movies are just made for us.
No, they definitely are. I'm all about the
It's on
gossip. I'm
Girl
all
on the
about the
Train
drama.
movie.
Yeah.
Avery and Kate gave it lower ratings than you and I did.
Honestly, I'm all about movies that I go into thinking I'm gonna hate, and then when I kind of like them, I'm like, man, this movie has overcome such big, like
the
I'm just-
underdog.
Yeah, it's just like one, yeah. So this is the underdog movie of. I thought this was going to be the movie out of like, oh man, I'm gonna love The Predator because it's this revisiting of sci-fi and Shane Black, and I'm gonna love it or whatever. I love Kevin Hart. He's gonna give such like a great, like whatever. And I think like Night School's gonna end up having Hart or whatever. And then like this movie, I'm like, it's gonna be fucking stupid, and I'm not gonna like it. I fucking hate Anna Kendrick, and Paul Feig is like not a great director after Ghostbusters or whatever. And I think that's what makes me like, come around.
Yeah, I'll just sort of repeat what I've said in like every episode this batch. The theme for this batch of episodes, Predator, last week with Rob Goodman of the Nuclear Heat podcast, this episode, and then next week we've got Constable Cass, also of the Nuclear Heat podcast, on for Night School. The theme has been like each one of these movies I've started out and been like, ooh, or I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. Like I'm not like immediately turned off by what is showing up here in the first half, like I have been with so many movies this year. And maybe I've just been beaten to submission where I'm just kind of like, something's got to be really good this year, like something has to like beat my expectations this year. In this one, I definitely enjoyed a larger portion of it than I did of the other two movies, not to spoil next week's review, which we've already recorded. And yeah, like you're saying, it does, the ending does sort of bring it down a lot. Not necessarily to the degree of other movies where it invalidates the whole first half of the movie. It doesn't really like make you view it through a different lens. It just makes me wish it was handled better in those instances.
Right.
But I do think it still speaks to Paul Feig being a better director than we've given him credit for in the past, for the first half of this movie. And I don't know if it's just, I don't know if the first half is what he wanted and he got lazy or misled in the second half, or if the second half is what he thought this movie should be, and he had a really good editor in the first half who was like, oh yeah, I know some French like songs that we could put in here that'll make it sound good,
right?
And I'll put this in slow motion or whatever. I think I'll give it 2.5 fingers. I think I'll split the baby again on this one, where I enjoyed a lot of it. There was a lot of just the pulpy, trashy stuff that I liked. There's a lot of just the cheesy, sentimental drama that I liked. Like, I was even into like buying the relationship between Anna Kendrick and Henry Golding.
Oh yeah,
like blossoming naturally. I was into like her like sort of like taking on like another kid, and like like the sort of like scene between her and I think Nikki is the other kid's name. Like sort of trying to be there for that kid in his grief, like stuff like that was like even like starting to like tug on my heartstrings a little bit. It wasn't maybe the funniest movie in the first half, but I don't think I'm the biggest fan of Paul Feig's humor a lot of the time, so that's fine.
Right, yeah.
I thought it was nice, this sort of ambiance that he set up in this tone. And like I've said so many times in this podcast, the consistency and the purity of the first half of this movie. And it wasn't a total departure in the last half, but it was definitely not like it all it needed to do was stray a little bit, and I was like, God damn it, you had a good thing and you fucking ruined it.
Right.
So I'll put it down to half, 2.5 fingers for me. So that'll obviously come to 3 fingers overall for us here on the podcast. So an above average review for us. If you agree or disagree, you can leave a comment below on YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Tumblr, wherever you're finding out about this episode. We'd love to hear from you. And obviously the best place to make your thoughts known would be in the Facebook group, where there's already a discussion in progress about this movie. Mm-hmm. Or maybe just a post that we posted and nobody commented on yet. This is also sometimes the case. But you can find that. Just search How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The Facebook group on Facebook. And join that. And anything else for us you can find at howmanyfingerspodcast.com.
Yeah.
Or Joe will cover it in the intro. Like we said last week, we've got Rob Goodman of the Nuclear Heat podcast on for The Predator. And next week, we've got Constable Cass of the same podcast on for Night School.
Yeah.
That's accurate. Yeah.
And it's a good time. God damn it, you should tune in for both.
They were both great. Check them both out and check out their podcast. That's about it for us here this week, I believe.
It is, yeah.
See you guys next week.
Later. Enjoy some LeBlanc.